I thank you very much for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast. Every bold move begins with one thing, courage. And today, my guest, Dr. Christiane Schroeter, helps entrepreneurs and dreamers silence their fear, rediscover their confidence, and build businesses that don't just make money, but they make meaning. We'll talk about it right after this.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Again, I thank y'all very much for tuning in today. So our guest is a confidence coach, entrepreneur, and the founder of Happiness, where she helps women transform their fear into fuel and turn their passion into a purpose-driven business. So, Christiane, you've helped so many people find courage to start, but what was the moment in your journey when you had to face the fear head on and choose faith over comfort?
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on your amazing podcast. I'm really honored to be here. And of course, this is going to be an amazing episode. Audience, I'm going to share some really cool insights, tips, and tricks, and of course, things you can apply right away in your life to face that fear. And before I share some of my personal stories, I would like to share how I actually see fear. When I look at fear, I divide it in all capital letters. And then I think fear stands for first attempt and rise. So basically, I look at it as like we can look at something, we can think about this. Should I really go for it? Should I not? Should I sit on the side of the road or should I face it? And then I think face everything and rise. So fear is face everything and rise.
Wow.
You just gotta go for it and you have to try it, because if you keep sitting on the side of the road on that fork, it's not going to happen and you will never really maybe fulfill your dream because you didn't take that first step.
Wow. And so, as I said to you, don't be nervous if I come up with something as I have done my research. One of the things that you stated in a previous interview on another show, and I really, really encourage everyone to do your research, find out all the information Dr. Christiane provides across the board, all social media platforms. But there was one thing that she mentioned in one episode where you mentioned that one of your fears is something simple, such as driving in the dark. And a lot of times, as we take a look at entrepreneurship or even just applying for a new position, it's a shot in the dark, and a lot of us are fearful of that. So how would you suggest to someone to overcome something that could be as simple as driving in the dark?
Beautiful. Yeah, and actually, this is tying beautifully to entrepreneurship because we frequently feel we are in charge of everything in control. So we're driving the ship, but at the same time, we really have no clue what the outcome is going to be, what the economy is going to be.
Right.
Are the clients actually going to be on the other side ready with their wallets to purchase whatever we're going to put out there?
Right.
So it's a little bit like driving a vehicle in the dark. So when I drive a vehicle in the dark, let's maybe come back to the physical act of doing this. The way that I overcome that fear is I slow down because I know it's mainly because of my vision. I have like this stigmatism in my eyes, and when the glare of the headlights hits my eyes, it's quite hard for me to see. And that means I slow down to make sure I really stay alert. And at the same time, alert also means that I'm not getting sidetracked. Now let's maybe translate that back into entrepreneurship. Frequently, we are afraid because we're just looking ahead and we just go, go, go.
Right.
But how about just slowing down and really thinking, I just need to focus on this one thing and put my full attention into it and really stay alert of what's going on. And that is really the most beautiful metaphor when I said
Mm,
earlier, face everything and rise.
right.
That fear of driving in the dark could be overcome by maybe just becoming in tune with ourselves, looking ahead and slowing down and really thinking about this one step at a time. And I actually call it petit practice. It's my trademark.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes we just think about it in too big of a chunk, that we just need to break it down into smaller steps. And then that fear actually becomes much more manageable.
So when we talk about slowing down, unfortunately, as we look at technology, trends on social media, they seem like they happen at the snap of a finger, right? And you're talking about for us to slow down and focus. Well, some of us might feel like, hey, if we slow down too much, we're going to miss something. We're going to miss out on something. And so, how would you talk to someone that says, hey, you know what? I gotta try to stay up to date with my friends. I have to stay up to date with my competitors, whatever it might be, because we might feel that fear of missing out.
Beautiful. Yeah, there is that FOMO, right? The fear of missing out.
Right.
And I can honestly tell you that the moment my business really changed
Mm-hmm.
was when I established boundaries.
Ah.
Boundaries where I said no to certain opportunities
Mm-hmm.
that might have been great, but my plate was full already. And I always think in my head of like a waitress that carries a tray with glasses, and some of the glass is actually full of liquid. So she can't move very fast because
Mm-hmm.
she's going to spill everything. And that's how I think when I add on one more thing to my tray. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to spill something. Something is not going to be done properly the way that I'm going to look back. And I think was really the best I could do because I added so much to my plate or my tray.
Mm.
So for me to really think, am I going to miss out on something? You have to let go of that feeling because
Mm-hmm.
it's there's always something happening, something going on, but at the end of the day, there's only one you.
Mm.
And spreading yourself thin makes the one you become very, you know, very stretched thin and not quite living to your fullest. You can
Mm.
only really live to your fullest if you put your full attention into one task at a time. And I
Mm.
sometimes think even like going off social media or not, responding immediately to emails,
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, nobody's really going to blame you for it.
Right.
If you take off a week for Thanksgiving or for like holidays in December, nobody's going to be like, where did you go?
Right.
Because you could honestly just say, I took a social media break.
Mm-hmm.
And I always encourage you, say it afterwards. You don't need to tell the world that you're taking a break. Just say it afterwards. Like, okay, I'm back. I took a social media break. It was really well deserved. I just needed to step away from things. And you will be surprised. I know this might hurt right now that most people didn't even notice you were gone. They were like, did you actually go? I
Right.
didn't even notice. Because think about this, Maurice. There's always noise. There's always
Yes.
noise. And you are just like one little star in the whole constellation of all these other people that are causing the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, after a while, people may start to miss you. But in the general thing, if you want to take a few days off, a weekend, a week, for it. I mean,
Mm.
it's truly something you owe to yourself.
So, but how do I do that? Or want to take off and take some time for myself, maybe even regroup when I see Dr. Christiana out there. She's the a number one bestseller. She's a top 1% podcast, whatever it might be, So I feel like I don't have the time to do that, especially if this is my mentor. I see what she's doing. Maybe help the people understand, like maybe you had to take some time off. Maybe you had to stop, take a step back and, again, listen to some of your interview information. You had to take a step back for a hot second to understand, hey, I'm in this swim class with my kids, right? You had to take a step back from your phone for a second, right? And so it's these type of things where we have to take a step back and look at the total picture, what we're missing, what we need to enjoy, and what we need to embrace. So how would you talk to someone who's looking at yourself and like, hey, I need to catch up?
Oh, this is a beautiful question. I think that the comparison is just inherently what entrepreneurs always do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage you, instead of comparing yourself to somebody else, because you never know what baggage they are carrying in their life. You just
Right.
don't. You don't know how long it took them to where they are right now, and you don't know what their life really looks like.
Mm-hmm.
If you pull back the curtain, it looks maybe great on the outside, but you really don't know how they're running their life.
Right.
So the best comparison is just with yourself. Think, is that how I want to show up for my family? Because frequently when I talk to entrepreneurs, the number one reason why they want to run their business is to be spending more time with family,
Right.
spending more time with your loved ones, with your friends, being more present. And what they actually do is exactly not that. They are spending more time away from the family, the loved ones, the friends, because they're building their business.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of comparing yourself to somebody else and look at how they are doing things and what they accomplished, rather just look at yourself and look back
Mm-hmm.
maybe 5 years and think, all right, in 5 years, I've grown a lot and I accomplished a lot. What's
Mm.
going to happen in the next 5 years? How do I want to show up for my family, for my friends, for my loved ones? How do I want to show up for myself
Mm-hmm.
to be a better leader, to be a better role model? And that's really how you should compare yourself. You should
Mm.
be okay with what you do, because if somebody else does that, I would say you do, boo. I mean, if they want to do that, they can do that. That's totally fine. But you need to be all right with how you show up. And the
Mm.
upward comparison, if you are looking at it as like getting the feeling that you do less, is quite toxic.
Mm.
It's rather good to look at an upward comparison and getting inspiration from there and thinking, oh my gosh, I love how they described this. And this
Mm.
is really motivational to me. And maybe put it on a sticky note, put it next to my computer. That's a great upward comparison. But an upward comparison to make you feel like you're less,
Mm-hmm.
that's not great. And so
Mm.
that's really important. Just compare yourself to yourself, and then you're really winning.
Well, unfortunately, I only can speak for myself for a brief moment in my corporate America time where I didn't know who I was because I had supervisors who said, Maurice, if you want to get to another level, you need to be like me. You need to put in a work ethic like me. And so I started to take on maybe their personality, their work ethic, or whatever it is. So I don't know who I am. I've lost me. So how can I challenge myself and say, for me to say, hey, 5 years from now, this is where I want to be? Because I don't know who I am. And I don't trust myself. I'm lacking self-confidence. I'm lacking self-doubt because I'm too busy being somebody else. So how do I regain control over myself?
I love that question. I call all of that aligning with your superpower, which is also the title of one of my books, Discover
Mm-hmm.
Your Superpower. And I look at superpower as like a value you really want to carry on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also the value that is visible to everybody on the outside. What somebody would say if you're not in the room,
Mm-hmm.
what somebody would think of when your name comes to their mind. So you need to think, that person is cool and I love what they're doing and they live by their values.
Mm-hmm.
My values and how I feel aligned are these. And with my clients, with my coaching program, I actually have a list of values, and we have an exercise where we go through, where we really pick out values, and then everything in your business, in your life, just in your mindset
Mm-hmm.
has to align with those. So every time when somebody asks you something, you have to think, does that align with my values? It's like a little gut check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel like when I say yes to this opportunity, is that aligning with my values? Yes,
Mm.
no, okay, good. It's like a little flow chart. So if somebody asks you to be just like them, you can say this is honestly like fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I look at this, and I usually repeat back in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
So just to make sure I fully understand, you want me to show up as doing an X, Y, and Z, maybe the tasks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because in that moment, showing up like them is like sounding like very unclear, I would say. But maybe just say, what tasks could I do with the way that I actually perform best, which is, whatever detail orientation or anything like that. So you need to kind of make sure that you're repeating it back and really making the tasks align with how you will perform and how you will fulfill them so that your leader understands, Maurice, he has these values, and I know that when I put out these tasks, he's going to do them to the best of his ability, and I can rely on him and I can trust him. But I don't really want to make my workers clones of myself because that's not really going to be the best of their ability. We all have
Right.
unique values, and a good leader sees that we have those values and brings out the best in each person.
I didn't have a good leader, Doc. I really didn't, and I'm being facetious. You know what I'm trying to say, but facetious. But I haven't. I've been in those positions. I'm speaking as some of the listeners. I've never been in a position where the leader gave me that vote of confidence. I didn't have that leader that said, "Hey, you are doing a great job. You are a superstar. You have those superhero powers, and I even trust you in getting this project completed." And so how do I continue to move on? Because I'm not used to that, right? I've never experienced that. And if someone were to ask me, Maurice, what they going to say about you in another room? Because I really don't know. I don't know what my gifts and graces are. I don't know what my real talents are. I don't know what I bring to the team. So I have no idea what someone's going to say. And so how do I build up my self-worth in that moment, especially if I've never experienced that?
Beautiful. Yeah, that's one of my superpowers, bringing out the best in people. I love doing that. I listen to people and I tune in with them. And through my coaching program, where we also use my books, we really align you with yourself. And what I always see is this aha moment where people become more confident, where they start to really align themselves more with who they are, and big transformation happens in terms of their business and their life. So you can get started, take my superpower quiz and really feel how aligned are you with yourself, right? It's free. Discover your superpower. And secondly, of course, check out my books, Discover Your Superpower. But thirdly, it's sometimes also just a moment of sitting down yourself and jotting down a few things that really mean a lot to you. And Maurice, this is really hard, but it's also really important. Ask others, when you think of me, what are some values that really come to your mind? What is it that you would seek me out for? What are some skills or some characteristics that I have that you think are absolutely unique? And alone listening to that, after you did your own self-reflection, might already tell you, is it how other people perceive me aligned with how I perceive myself and how I want to be perceived? So that's a really good exercise. And I always encourage people to do that anyway, because you need to sometimes take a moment, especially if you are in a leadership position, and figure out how you're showing up for the world. Are you making a little corner of the world a better place? Or are you just kind of like going through the motions? And if you are truly miserable in your job and you are just going through the motions and nobody even knows who you are, what your superpower is, it's sometimes time to also think, you know what? I'm sure there's other people out there that will appreciate me for who I am. Maybe I should start looking for those people and find them and find my tribe and really align with people that bring out the best in me.
And I think with that type of feedback, especially for those those of you that are listening that's still working your 9 to 5, really understand how valuable that feedback loop is currently in your personal position, but how it's going to transform your business once you become an entrepreneur and you're really out there and you understand what your customers are, how they view you, and how you can continue to help them, both internal customers and external customers, because we have to keep that in mind as well. So I really thank you for pointing that out, because that is as valuable almost as anything else.
True. And then, of course, we all change too.
Mm-hmm.
So figuring out what your value is today might even be different in a couple of years or in 5 years because you're learning more about yourself, but you're also
Mm-hmm.
gaining perspective just by aging or by hanging out with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it might change a little bit of what's really important to you and who you are and what you actually appreciate. I mean, we
Mm.
sometimes appreciate doing things, and then in a couple of years, you're like, I've done that and I'm ready to move on to something different. So you have to give yourself grace in change. Change is great because it means you're growing. And I
Mm.
think it's important to acknowledge that if you, again, don't like what you're doing right now, it doesn't mean that it was bad. There might have been
Right.
moments when you enjoyed it. It's just maybe you kind of grew out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I look at my children, they grow out of their clothing. It's the same thing. We grow out of jobs, of opportunities. We're just like, it doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't feel right. Just move on. Give yourself grace and think, all right, going to shed that. Moving on, right? Yep.
Right.
Pass it on to somebody else.
And I think that's another thing that holds us back: fear of change, not knowing how to pivot or understanding how to pivot. And a lot of people in my connections and who I've spoken to or whatever it is, they really don't know how to embrace change. They don't understand how to embrace it. And because of the unknown, and I'm used to, hey, these golden handcuffs, right? I don't want to lose my salary, or maybe I don't want to change my breakfast table because I'm used to having these type of conversations. That makes me feel safe, And so I think people don't know how to really embrace and understand change is good for them in the long run.
I love that. And I also like the comparison with the golden handcuffs because you could think I'm pretty comfortable and why change? I mean, it's not ideal, but
Hmm.
it does the job. I mean, keep in mind, you only got that one life, right? And
Hmm.
while change is not always necessarily comfortable, growth really at the end of the day will lead you to a different place and that
Hmm.
might be a better place. So
Mm.
when you talk to athletes or accomplished business owners
Hmm.
and you ask them how did you really approach your life, how did you look at pivots, they will
Hmm.
always say the most fun I really had was when I did that pivot during the time when I really gave myself that curiosity, the area of play and exploration,
Mm.
instead of just thinking, I'm just going to continue waiting for that perfect moment. Maybe think, maybe this is just not the right area. Maybe I need to look over here and explore this a little bit more because it's
Hmm.
actually also something that I'm much more passionate about.
Mm.
So that is really how you need to look at this yourself. That give yourself the curiosity, give yourself the grace to network and learn more
Hmm.
from others. And also say, you know what? Change is maybe not always comfortable, but at the
Hmm.
end, become comfortable with that uncomfortable. And then you will really see how you're going to grow.
Wow, wow. I really thank you. And I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all these nuggets. So, for those individuals that don't know how to deal with fear, that are a little nervous about change, and don't understand how to continue to embrace curiosity and their creative self, where did they find you and your information that you've been sharing throughout your little nuggets that you've been sharing today? Where can they get your information and purchase your book?
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I am at drchristiane.com.
Mm.
So it's written out drchristiane.com. Then, of course, find my YouTube channel where you can watch
Hmm.
some inspirational videos, Dr. Christiane. You can also watch my TED Talk
Hmm.
while you're there, which is super inspirational. And I would always love feedback about this. And then lastly, all my books are on Amazon. It's there are three different ones. I'm actually working on the fourth one right now, which is
Okay.
called Step Into Your Voice. Really giving you the best scripts if you want to step into confidence, being a better leader. The Step Into Your Voice will really help you with that.
Nice.
And then, of course, I'm sure you can just email me if you feel you want to work with me, coaching one on one or in a group program. And I would love to hear from you.
Nice, nice. I appreciate it. Of course, everyone, whether or not you're hiking, biking, walking, whatever it might be, all the information will be in the show notes. So you always come back and you can find that information. So, Dr. Christiane, I thank you very much for coming on to the show. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But I gotta ask you the question before we go.
Let's do it.
The would you rather question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
I would always do the fork in the road.
Okay.
And the main thing for that is I'm kind of fond in thinking about a fork in the road as like there's this 50-50 chance of taking one or the other.
Okay.
Maybe really even thinking that the fork in the road allows you maybe to sit down and ponder what side you're going to take. Are you going to take that road or that road? While the doors, I think they you have to open them, you have to close them. It seems a little bit more finite. I like the fork in the road because it more aligns with who I am, being born in Germany, doing lots of walking through European cities, really coming here to the United States with 2 suitcases in the hand. The fork in the road kind of symbolizes that number 2 was always in my head and making something meaningful by figuring out, should I do this or should I do that? So that is what I would do.
And I have a question before we go. I know we're moving on, but what was that type of change like to come from across the pond, quote unquote, as you will, to come here, something like this? Because that is totally outside of a comfort zone, right? So what was that change, emotionally, beyond the physical part, but emotionally and mentally, what type of change were you experiencing in a situation like that?
Yeah, so we started the show, and this is a beautiful way of cycling back, talking about fear. And I said it stands for face everything and rise.
Right.
In that moment, Maurice, when I was at the airport and about to step on an airplane going to a country where I literally knew nobody, no family, no friends, nobody. So I came here for graduate school. At that moment, when I stood at the airport, all of that stress and preparation, organization just kind of slipped off and it settled in. I was like, this is for real. I'm actually going to take an airplane and I'm going to leave my family. And sometimes we do that where you're just so in the preparation, your mindset is just like go, go, go. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is like for real. And I get on that airplane across the pond. I'm going to get off. I'm like in a place where I just don't know anybody. And that is sometimes the best when you don't overthink it. And I think it helped me that I didn't.
Wow.
I was there at the airport. I had my tickets in hand. There was like no turning back. They're like, are you going to board this plane or not? Right. So I didn't do the whole like fork in the road where I was like, oh, I could go back with my family or I could go to the airplane. No, I got on the airplane. But I have to be honest with you that overthinking in that moment just didn't happen. I basically just thought whatever happens, happens. And I'm just going to keep an open mind. I'm going to stay curious and I'm going to just soak it all in like a big sponge. But I also, if you think about like a sponge, right? There were moments when I needed my boundaries, my time off. Because remember, I came from a country where we speak a different language. And there are definitely times when it's like, whoo, now I just need to rest. So deep down, I'm still an introvert. So I still stepped away. And in the evenings, I just needed quiet time because it was a lot of that learning that happened in my brain. And my brain was sometimes like, okay, I just need to shut off right now.
Okay.
So if you do change, just be aware that overthinking doesn't do you any good because whatever happens, happens. But secondly, while you're there, Billy, be alert to the little voices in your head that tell you, all right, slow down here. Maybe figure out that you need that time to yourself because that's how learning happens. It's like this huge sandstorm and you just have to wait for it just to kind of like settle down too.
Wow. I appreciate that. I like that story. Because it, like you said, it really connects with everything that we spoke about today. I appreciate that. That was very impactful for me.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you very, very much. And I think and each and every one of you who are listening today to That Will Never Work podcast. But of course, I want to leave you with a little message real quick. Today, I challenge you to write down one fear that's been keeping you from taking your next step, and then take that one step action towards it this coming week, because you never know. Just like for Dr. Christiana, it might take you to a place where you're going to soar into your next step. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you a little bit later.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chisholm on social media to stay connected, and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?